Welcome to the Laker Central podcast. Today's show is sponsored by Stitcher. Wherever or however you're watching or listening to this show, make sure you check out Stitcher. Stitcher is a free podcast app that's really nice. They have a ton of shows on there, but they've got this other service called Stitcher Premium for $4.99 a month. Use promo code crossover and you'll get Stitcher Premium free for 30 days. So I got a couple fresh faces with me today on this episode. I got my girl Renee G, host of Laker Round. What's going on, Renee?
Hey, how y'all doing?
Hey, man, we're good, man. And I think y'all have seen Spence on here once or twice before. We got my man Jay Spence, host of Code of Conduct. What's going on, Spence? Spence might be having some audio issues.
What's up, y'all? I think I'm freezing. I'm sorry.
No, you're good, man. So look,
okay.
I reached out to y'all. Can you hear me, Spence?
Yep, I'm with you.
All right, cool. So I reached out to y'all the other night, and the Lakers are now 2-4 in the bubble. And we got that big win over the Clippers to start the bubble season or whatever, but they have not looked good basically this entire time. It feels like Anthony Davis and LeBron can't have a good game at the same time. It feels like, a game against the Pacers where they get contributions from a couple guys off the bench, but AD looked bad in that game. But how are y'all feeling, man? Renee, let me start with you. How are you feeling right now about the Lakers in this bubble?
Right now, I'm just really feeling like they're not locked in. Like to me, they're playing real careless right now. I don't know if it's because, okay, we got that number one seed locked up. Let's just save our energy for the playoffs. And I hate to lose. And I know it does nothing if we win. I know these games are quote unquote meaningless, but at the same time too, I expected them to kind of ramp it up, getting prepared for the playoffs. And the fact that they're not, I'm just like, okay, what am I missing? So that's what I'm questioning right now.
Spence, how are you feeling, man? Seeing them these first 6 games. They have 2 left to get this thing together before the playoffs start. What are your thoughts?
Let's try this.
I think we're missing Spence right there. So, Renee, it's crazy because I figured there was a long layoff, right, in the bubble. And I figured that there would be some issue, them trying to get back, them coming back into the bubble. I figured there'd be some rust, but they have looked really, really rusty.
Yes.
Is there anything positive going on right now for them?
THT? Maybe?
I like THT, man, but he's still young. He's 19 years old. And when I saw him come up, I saw him and Quinn Cook come off the bench against the Pacers first, and I was like, what is Vogel doing? But they played well. Quinn Cook played really, really well. But LeBron alluded to there might be something personal going on off the court, I think a couple of days ago. And maybe it's a family issue. Who knows? But something's off with this team. Spence, what do you think is going on with the roster, man?
Well, I think it's obviously the camaraderie. They had some time off, so, and I know every team in the bubble has had time off, so there's really no excuse. But I just feel like those guys are. I don't think that they care, which sounds bad to say because they're professionals. They're in the bubble, but like you said, we saw LeBron posting these pictures of them playing Madden tournaments and stuff like that. Their focus just isn't on basketball. So with the roster, I can see Frank Vogel pretty much trying to see, like we just mentioned, THT try to get some time in there, some rotation. We've seen even what he's been tinkering with as far as Dion and even J.R. Smith. I honestly, man, I'm just hoping that they find a groove and they can figure this thing out within the next, what do you have, 3 games left?
2. They got Denver Monday night and then Sacramento Thursday.
Yeah, so we got to figure it out within these 2 games because if not, it's going to be You don't want to go into. I don't care who we're facing as an 8 seed. I don't care if it's Portland. I don't care if I don't care who it is. You go into it the way we're playing, and it's going to be a tough time to get out the first round, which is you don't want to say as a first seed.
Yeah, no, it's looking rocky. Like I figured they'd lock up the 1 seed like they did, and then they play well enough where LeBron and AD could kind of get a break the last 3 or 4 games of the bubble. But they got to play against Denver, and Denver could very well beat us. And I mean, these games don't mean anything from a record perspective or a seeding perspective, but the Lakers don't. It seems like for a team that thrived on camaraderie and playing together all year long, they've just looked so off. Now, I will say Kyle Kuzma's actually looked really good in the bubble. He didn't look good yesterday against the Pacers. But overall, I think he's scoring 14 points a game, shooting 46% from 3. That's a win. But Renee, what's going on with Anthony Davis, man? He don't look like he had that one big game, and it's kind of like,
yeah,
what's up?
He's been really up and down. I don't know what it is with him because I'm looking at the game and I'm like, dude, go get yours. He did not want to go get his yesterday. And even against the Rockets, he should have feasted against the Rockets. And the fact that he didn't, I'm like, okay, what are you doing? What's going on? It ain't no pressure right now, to be honest, but the pressure is coming, and we need to make sure you're ready for it. And we can't say that he's not. He did beat Portland, in that playoff series, but you got LeBron now. LeBron expects a lot. He's not going to just take you just halving, So I'm not sure what's going on with AD. They need to continue to get into them shoot arounds, though. I do know that.
They got to do something because I didn't expect us to beat the Rockets without LeBron, but I did think AD would score 30 or 40 points because, the Rockets don't have anybody over like 6'5". There's no reason for him not to have dominated even in a loss. And it just feels like, are they just going through the motions? Like they don't, like we got the 1 seed, let's just try and get away healthy to the playoff start. But it looks, I'll be honest with y'all, man. Like I had to pull away from social media. Like when I watch the games, I don't get on social media a lot because Lakers Twitter is up and down like a roller coaster. And that gets on my nerves sometimes. But I'm usually I'm a glass half full kind of person. Like, all right, they're trying to work back in conditioning. They got new pieces, but even I'm a little concerned at how rough they've looked. Like you can lose, but in some of these games, it looks like they're not even competing. I mean, Spence, do you think they they locked up 1 seed, so it's kind of just like whatever, let's just get to the playoffs?
Yeah, and that's what I'm saying. Like I hope that they really aren't thinking that way, but it looks that way. It just looks like they got in there, they got that number 1, and they're like, all right, cool. Because they played to get the number 1 seed. They had a different type of passion when they were playing that it doesn't look like they have in the last couple of games. So it just honestly looks like they hit a switch and turned it off and said, you know what? All right, we're in. Let's kind of just, wait to see who we're playing round 1. But I just think that's a dangerous way to think, if you're a basketball historian or if you watched it for years, like I'm sure a lot of us have, how dangerous it is to go into any run of the playoffs and underestimate your opponent. And I just really hope that, and I know LeBron is LeBron, and we have the type of guys with some experience that, hopefully they'll go in there with a serious attitude. But right now, it just doesn't seem like they're serious about it at all.
They need to beat Denver, not because of record or anything, but I think they need a confidence boost. And if they beat Sacramento, well, so what at Sacramento? But Denver's a really good team. They need to beat Denver on Monday. Something else that's kind of gotten under my skin recently, like the Lakers starters are starting off basically in a negative every single game. Like every first quarter, we're losing. And that's hard to do when you have LeBron James and Anthony Davis in the starting lineup, that they can't seem to win first quarters. It's not all his fault, but JaVale McGee at times looks like he shouldn't be out there. And if they're going to go with 2 bigs, I'd prefer Dwight to play more because even though Dwight has lost a lot of his athletic ability, Dwight is still a 3-time defensive player of the year. He's still a very smart defensive player. Sometimes it feels like JaVale is just like just flailing his arms around, and like he's obviously not an offensive person. So if you've got a team that's struggling offensively, if anything, Anthony Davis needs to slide to the 5 and put Kuz out there at the 4 or something to get some more offense in the first quarter. But Renee, what do you think about their starting lineup?
Yeah, I can agree with that too. JaVale definitely, he's dropping the ball a lot. Bunnies, he's missing a lot of bunnies, and I think they can switch it up a little bit. If Frank wants to do anything, play with the starting lineup a little more. We need to see Danny Green also hit his open shots.
Yes,
that's another thing that concerns me. But I don't want to be too concerned because he's a veteran. He's championship caliber. I think he can lock in, hopefully. So yeah, if you want to play with the starting lineup, I'll probably start with JaVale and Danny Green.
Yeah, Danny is in a terrible shooting slump right now, and he's streaky. I mean, his career, he's always a streaky guy, but he's missing everything. And I don't know, like, what do you think's going on with him? Is it just he's in a slump, or Spence, do you think he needs to go shoot some more threes? I mean, what does he need to do?
Well, see, I'm not concerned at all about Danny Green. So, like, the offensive struggle aspect of the struggles that the Lakers are having, I'm not as concerned about. Like, as long as their defense is well, like they're playing defense good, I'm cool. The offense, it'll click. Like you said, Danny Green, throughout his career, we've seen him perform like this, and then in big games or especially playoff times, he makes his money. So I'm not really concerned about Danny Green. He's proven himself to me, in San Antonio. He's proven himself to me in Toronto. So really, I'm not concerned about Danny Green. My concern really is still the same concern that I've had at the beginning of the season is Frank Vogel and his his lineups. I just don't agree with how he puts lineups together. And actually, I agree with Ray as far as JaVale. I don't want to be that fan yet, but I've been screaming all season, and I think based on the production and based on the energy that we've seen, I thought Dwight probably would have been a little more fun in that lineup. I got yelled at by a lot of Lakers fans, so I won't actually say it again. But I would love to see Dwight in that starting lineup.
The thing with JaVale, I mean, do y'all remember? I think it was last year when the Lakers still had Ivica Zubac, and no, it wasn't. Maybe it was 2 years ago. Either case, Luke Walton ended up starting Zubac over JaVale, and JaVale started kind of like pouting, and then they had to kind of work through that. Now that was a much younger Laker team, and it was different. But do you think he would get upset if Dwight was starting over him?
He shouldn't. If you ask me, he shouldn't.
For sure.
He shouldn't. It's a team thing. If the guy above you has it, then he has it. And you come and bring it on the back end. This is how I look at it.
Yeah, I feel like it's not one person's fault why the starters are struggling, but there's no way in the world when you've got two of the top 5 players on the floor for 10 minutes, you should be coming out of that first quarter, losing every single time. And that's crazy to me. I know Frank is messing around with the rotation. We're seeing pieces that we haven't seen before. But they've got to tighten it up. Like we barely see Markieff Morris. And I thought we'd see more of him. And I don't know what's going on. So I feel like Frank needs to tighten up his rotation a bit. And maybe there is something happening kind of off the court that's got some of these guys' minds somewhere else. And that's fair. They leave their families behind. There's a pandemic going on. There's always racist stuff going on, but their families have to deal with that stuff. So, I don't want to pretend like it's easy for them to be away from their families, but God, they've looked bad. And are you at all concerned that first round, not that they're going to lose, but it could take them 6 or 7 games instead of 4 or 5 to knock out whoever in the first round? Spence?
Man, I'm with you 100%. I think I'm just nervous about how we're looking going in, period. So, like, regardless if it's the lineups, regardless if it's coaching, I'm just nervous about it right now. I don't want to be one of those fans that's lying. And I'm sorry if I kind of missed from what I think I heard. I'm trying to answer it. I'm just nervous in general going in. Like, going in right now, we just can't. we can't make it through the playoffs this way.
No, I agree. Like the way we're playing right now, we faced Portland, the Rockets. I mean, obviously Denver and the Clippers, but like even those teams we should be much better than, they're going to give us a run for our money. Renee, are you at all concerned that they're going to struggle in the playoffs?
My concern is the defense, and I'm concerned with Frank's rotation so far, because I feel like he should have more of an idea, or maybe he don't want to show his cards right now. Maybe that's what it is, but I think he should have more of an idea on the rotation lineup, and then the defense. That's where they have to step it up at, because we know they're a capable team. When they lock in, they lock in, but they need to do that for 48 hours. I mean, 48 hours. 48 minutes, so that's my concern, really.
They need to do it for 48 hours. You were right the first time.
40 hours.
We've talked about the offense, but you're right. Defensively, usually, so before the season was suspended, they would lock teams down. Even if their offense wasn't clicking, they would get out in transition, get steals. They're not getting any of that. Like you did see it in the Pacers game. There was a stretch, I think, in the third quarter where they locked in and they were dominating. And then I mean, TJ Warren he's hot all bubble, but like that's not an excuse to me to lose that game.
No, it's not. You're right. He's playing lights out. But the other day, and actually on the first episode that from my podcast on the crossover, I actually mentioned how I was so impressed with Anthony Davis in the game that we actually locked down the number 1 seed. That was like the way he played that night. I saw like a killer instinct in him that you normally don't see. Granted, his numbers will say, oh, he dropped 35 points tonight and had 14 rebounds. But it's a difference when you watch the game. You can tell when a guy is like literally taking over a game or if he's just dropping buckets. And that night he took over that game. And the thing is, like you said, we can't seem to get a game where LeBron or AD are on the same page as far as, just being a killer. But if that's the AD that we're going to get going into the playoffs, my concerns are a lot less. But, we need that killer. And right now, even with our leaders, I know LeBron is saying that he's having issues shooting on those hoops. He said that, I forget where I was reading it, but he said like not having the stands behind the basket is a different feel. He said it's extremely dark. So he had to kind of, figure out the shooting and everything. But listen, we need that AD. That's the AD we need, regardless if LeBron is going to show up like we're used to or not. If that's the AD that we're going to have going forward, I don't have any fears about the franchise.
Well, so as Anthony Davis, I assume he's going to sign an extension or a new contract. I don't think he's going anywhere. But one thing's for certain, he's going to need some help once LeBron is done. He's not going to be able to do it by himself. And even now, like, sometimes I watch LeBron like try to drive the ball, and look, he's still better than like 99% of the people in the league. But he has trouble beating guys off the dribble way more than he ever did. Like he can still bully whoever he wants, but he's not blowing by guys. And he's not a great shooter. I mean, he can certainly light it up when he gets hot, but like it feels like that they need some of those other guys to play well, like the Quinn Cooks, like the Kyle Kuzmas, the Dion Waiters, JRs. But they need those guys to play well. And what can't happen is when a guy like Quinn Cook does play way better than what he normally does, we can't drop that game. Like I was watching it last night. I was telling my wife, I said, if Anthony Davis even plays half as good as Anthony Davis is, the Lakers probably win that game last night. Like he looked like he was like 20% of himself. Like, what do you like?
Like they're sleeping. They're sleepwalking.
Yeah.
That's what it is.
It does. So Renee, what do you think about JR and Dion? What have you seen out of them so far? Do you feel good about them or you feel bad? What are your thoughts?
I feel better about Dion. I don't feel like JR have got enough time for me to really say I feel good or bad about him. But what I can say about JR is that when he's on the floor, he does show effort on the defensive side. And that's what we need from him. We need him to show, to play defense and be pretty much a 3-and-D type of guy coming off the bench. Dion, I like how he can create his own shot, which is what we need. But he does shoot a lot, but I feel like he's known for that. And I feel good about Dion. JR, I think I need to see a little more.
Yeah,
Yeah, I
I
agree.
agree with that.
Looking at
Spence, what do you
JR,
think?
I'm not as impressed as I thought I would be with him coming. And I've been a fan of JR, so I was excited for him to join the Lakers, and he just hasn't looked like JR that I've been looking forward to. But the Dion, like I said, I've admitted to Alex already, so I admit it again. I was wrong about Dion. I thought that Dion wasn't the guy that we needed. I was pounding the table for Jamal Crawford, and now he's out with a hamstring injury. So I would have been wrong there. I'm glad I'm not Frank Vogel, but he, but Dion has, so to this point, he has pleasantly surprised me. The way he creates his own shot or scoring opportunities is second to none. I mean, the guy comes in off the bench and he can score 10 points in a matter of 5 minutes. It's crazy. So, I'm happy with them. I'm hoping that there's enough time to really get them involved with the rotation the right way, because that's the thing too. And that's why I said on the podcast the other day, it's like you can't possibly say that whoever wins this championship will have an illegitimized championship. The champion from this season will have had to go through things that no team in NBA history has had to deal with. And, if anything, this is the most difficult championship to win, in my opinion. Everybody's healthy for the most part. Everybody had 3 or 4 months off, so everybody has to deal with a fully healthy team. And now you have to deal with losing the camaraderie and the unity that you once had. So if the Lakers, I could see it, honestly. I could see our demise if we don't win. It could be the time off really hurt us instead of helped us.
So I thought the time off would help because it's an older team. I don't think, but it's clearly has not helped. Like they were rolling at, when the pandemic hit. So speaking of championship, I'm sure y'all saw that KD picked the Bucks and Clippers over the Lakers for the championship. And that's okay. That's his prerogative. Like I don't have people can pick whoever they want to pick, but like he had to know if he said the Clippers over the Lakers that was going to like get backlash and people were going to be upset. Like, why are so many people not picking the Lakers? Whether it's an athlete like KD or even some of all the ESPN folks and FS1 folks, why are they not picking the Lakers? Even before the pandemic. Like, what do you think, Spence?
Well, in my opinion, when I look at it, it just looks, if you're going to be an honest basketball fan, we have all the pieces that you need to win a championship. But if you're going to be honest about it, you can't say that the Clippers aren't probably the most complete looking team in the league. They have the 2 superstars just like us, but they have a deep bench. They have a guy that is known for coming in off the bench, dropping 25 whenever he feels like it. They have great defensive players on the team. So, I mean, it's a complete looking team. And as much as I'm not a huge Doc Rivers fan, he is still one of the best coaches in the league. I think sometimes he gets too much credit for only winning the amount of championships that he's won, but he is still a talent. So when you look at the team and you look at the coaching, they do look like a team that can absolutely go all the way. I guess I'm just banking on LeBron feeling that people didn't believe in him, because every time he really came out in this mode, like, oh, so y'all really gonna doubt me? That's when he's shown us that he can, really take over and do things. So I guess that's what I'm banking on. But if you're honest and you know basketball, you know that the Clippers are a heck of a roster. You can't deny it.
What do you think, Renee? You think it's just, like, why would KD say anything at all?
Right. I mean, KD, he always in the media for something. He always saying or doing something. So I'm not surprised that he said that. But I do agree with you, Spence. And I like to add too that the Lakers shooting has been a problem. And I think that's where a lot of people doubt us at. We haven't been able to shoot the 3 very well. And then losing Avery Bradley is not an excuse, which I think we'll be okay without him. But it does hurt us. So I think the shooting, and then people before it was a shooting, and now everybody's thinking because of Avery Bradley. But I just think we just need to hit our shots, and we haven't done that consistently. And then the Clippers are a good team. We can't say that they're not. To be honest, they're a heck of a team, like Spence said. So that's what I think is really bothering people.
So let me ask y'all this question before we close out. So Rondo is in Orlando, and he is outside of the bubble, but he's working out with Kurt Rambis. There are a lot of people on TV that think that like Rondo is going to solve a lot of issues. I've heard people say he's one of our best defense players. Obviously, they were drunk when they said that. I've heard people say that he's going to come in and like help LeBron. The Lakers already can't shoot. Rondo is not a shooter at all. Like, if he's healthy, do you think he screws the rotation up? That Frank Vogel's going to play him and screw things up?
Yes.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Yes. I don't want to see Rondo on the court again this year. I know he will be, but if it were up to me, 100% Rondo would not be in the Lakers uniform playing. He could be in the Lakers uniform on the bench, like, as a cheerleader, hey,
Sure.
Good job, good pass. But no, I don't want to see him in a game. His mental capacity is amazing. The knowledge that he has as a point guard and the things that he can help you with on the court as far as just knowing how things are going to open up, 100%. He's amazing, but his body just doesn't seem to move as quick as his mind anymore, and he can't perform at that same level. And I just think that the things that we need him for, he's not providing us that relief. We need somebody to handle the ball for LeBron, to give him that rest. We need somebody to continue to allow the offense to move fluid, and we just don't have that. And you put him in there, and actually I feel like it's going to be worse, which is tough to say.
And Renee, you agree with that?
Yes, absolutely. 100% not a fan of Rondo being back on the court. He can sit on the side and be a coach. I'm absolutely fine with that because he's a smart basketball player. He knows the game very, very well. We know that. But at this time now, I'm not. No, we've seen enough of Rondo.
Yeah, I agree. And look, Rondo is a phenomenal basketball mind, but from a physical standpoint, it's over for him as far as I'm concerned. And more than anything, he would have missed 4 to 6 weeks of basketball, and not to mention the 4 months of suspended basketball. So you're saying to me that he's going to have missed 5 to 6 months of basketball, and then you're going to bring him back in the middle of the playoffs? That doesn't make any sense to me. For him, you look at this team right now. Look how out of sync they are. Right? He would have missed more time. He's going to be out of sync also. Not to mention he's never played with Dion. He's never played with JR. Like, there's way too many moving parts, I think, to bring him back and try to start him or to have him be the first guard off the bench. Stick with Caruso and Dion. Bring in Cook and JR when they need to. But, like, at this point, the Lakers have enough issues right now going into the playoffs that hoping that Rondo is going to fix all those problems, I think is really the wrong way to look at it. So, but
real quick before you go, because I know we have to go, but if just looking at it in that sense, I know people are excited about, because everywhere I go, I see and read, playoff Rondo's different though. I will agree 1,000,000,000% that playoff Rondo has been different, but they're just father time is undefeated. And I don't care what anybody says. When you look at Rajon Rondo at this point, there's nothing that would make me think that he can flip a switch and turn back into 28 or 27-year-old playoff Rondo. That's not happening. He's a completely different physically abled person at the time. Now, mentally, you're right. Again, I agree with you, Alex. Playoff Rondo all day. Let him be playoff Rondo or playoff coach Rondo. But on the floor, we don't need him.
Nah, I'm with you, man. Playoff Rondo was 2 years ago. That's a long time. Like, think about what LeBron looked like in 2018 against the Warriors in the finals. Like, he was averaging like 45 a game. LeBron doesn't even look like that LeBron anymore. He's LeBron.
Yeah.
Like, enough is enough. Like, Lakers need to get their rotation down, and whatever gets rolling into this playoffs, stick with it. Stop messing around too much. So
let's just do it.
I
agree. Appreciate y'all coming on. Renee, tell everybody how they can find you and Laker Realm.
You can follow me on Twitter at Laker_Realm Pod, or on Twitter on Instagram at Laker_Realm Pod, and on Twitter at RAE_G33.
Spence, tell everybody how they can find you in the code of conduct.
Hey, you can find me on Twitter and Instagram at jspence_the_king. And you can also find the Conduct Pod on Twitter at the Conduct Pod.
And guys, y'all know you can find me, my personal account on Twitter at Lakers Central 365. You can find the show's account on Twitter. Or I'm sorry, the show's account is Lakers Central 365. My personal account is Lakers Central CEO. And we're powered by the Crossover Network, my network. You see the logo, you see the hat. You can follow the network on Twitter and on Instagram at Crossover 365. I'm Alex, and you've been listening to Lakers Central.